Great, thanks. So yeah, just thanks for having us, everyone. Like I said, slight change of pace today, thanks for having us. My name's Cameron. I'm from Softiron, and we're taking the opportunity today to talk to you about the Ceph Market Development Group. So if you can just move to the next slide, please, Mike. Thanks. So you'll be hearing from a bunch of us today. Like I said, I'm from Softiron. I'm the marketing director there. And I've been working very closely with these folks on the screen over the last couple of weeks with some really exciting developments around what we're calling the Ceph Market Development Group. Next slide, please, Mike. So, yeah, essentially, what is the Ceph Market Development Group? So what we've done is actually come together and we've formed a cross-vendor collaborative working group who've really come together to ultimately raise the awareness, the understanding and the consideration of Ceph within the broader software-defined storage market. Predominantly, we'll be talking to more senior sort of enterprise technology decision makers as opposed to developers and engineers and end users, because our purpose is to, like I said, just really raise the awareness of Ceph within this audience. And we seek to help educate them, give them access to vendor-neutral content, all in the quest to help them better understand Ceph at their level, so they can make decisions around how they might be able to use Ceph within their organizations. Next slide, please. Cool, so why do we need it? So, it's been a couple of months that we've been talking about it specifically at Softiron, but ultimately we've come to the conclusion that for all of us in the Ceph game, for all the vendors who've got an interest and a stake in Ceph, for us to continue to be successful, Ceph has to be successful. It's certainly no secret that the technology landscape that we find ourselves now is increasingly complex and competitive, and we want to help wave the Ceph flag to make sure that Ceph continues to stand out in that landscape. It's again, examples like the Ceph month. Ceph has got an incredibly enthusiastic, dedicated developer community. There's plenty of resources and assets available to that community for them to help learn and understand and become more familiar with the technology. And honestly, it's actually been a bit of an inspiration for us and a motivation to develop the same kind of environment, the same kind of community, but for enterprise technology decision makers who may not be so familiar with the acronyms and the command line. We want to surface all the good stuff about Ceph, and we want to help educate on the benefits of Ceph for those who are looking probably, at a more strategic level about how they can use Ceph within their organization. And ultimately, our purpose is to continue to accelerate and increase Ceph's mainstream adoption and market share. We strongly feel like there's a lot of market conversions at the moment. That means, adoption of open source in the community, and as Ceph has continued to mature and move somewhat out of scientific compute and into enterprise environments, there's some really fantastic examples as well that we can showcase and take to the community, like I said, in an effort to achieve this. Next slide, please. Thanks. So ultimately how it will work, like I said, we've got a cross-vendor working group. We're working very closely with Canonical and Red Hat at this stage. We're working very closely with Mike and Sage alongside the Ceph Foundation. And again, our purpose is to advocate and drive more commercially led marketing activity in order to reach those audiences. So the people we're trying to talk to might not necessarily be in forums such as this. So our job will be to take it beyond these types of communities and really make sure that we're putting Ceph front and center in front of those people. So yeah, like I said, the purpose is that we will continue to drive a whole gamut of marketing activity, ultimately with the end purpose to help improve the education of Ceph. And like I mentioned, between the group and as we start to onboard new people into the team, we'll be able to showcase some really exciting case studies from enterprise examples as well from those that are actually really already successfully using Ceph. So it's been about a month in the making. We went formally live the beginning of this week with a press release, which some of you may have seen. And it's really culminating in the session today to to introduce the group to the community in this session. So yeah, thanks for having us. And on to the next slide.
Thanks, Cameron. I'll hop in. So hi, Phil from Canonical. So the question is kind of like, well, why now? If we look forwards at the storage industry in general, it's this great beast that just continues to grow and grow and grow. But I think now the kind of sea change that's happening is that we're moving more and more away from traditional proprietary tin into this, adoption of open source in the storage industry. This is something that I've kind of dreamed of for the last 8 years. And it's kind of becoming sort of a reality. So I think this group sharing what the community has been working on for such a long time now with these different enterprises who just don't consider open source technology, that's super important. If we think about the different parts of the community, so we have sort of the engineers, the users, the vendors. Without all three of those, I don't think we would really survive. But what's kind of interesting is that sort of user area. We have lots of people who are, very open source focused today, very sort of software engineering and DevOps focused, who have really dove into using Ceph in, cloud deployments, very, very like DevOps focused environments. But that's not translated into the enterprise market. So by us going out and explaining to those kind of people what Ceph is capable of, we believe that we can help continue to drive adoption. Next slide, please, Mike. So the objectives of the group is really kind of straightforward. It's really around raising awareness within those areas that just don't understand what Ceph is and really what open source can do for them. And we'll kind of do that through things like education and sharing content that us as individual vendors have produced, but we'll also share that in like a sort of an agnostic fashion, really to show what Ceph is capable of, and not just with a vendor flavor to it. And really that then brings Ceph to the front of people's minds, and they start thinking about actually we can adopt open source for this part of our technology stack. Storage has always been the area where we're all kind of scared to do things that are a bit revolutionary, a bit different, really because of the risks involved. So yeah, starting to allow people to understand it is actually an option, is kind of the first step. And then finally, through engagement, we see this group as sort of a conduit between the open source community and then kind of like the enterprise. There has to be some kind of bridge between those two groups. Next slide, Mike, and over to Danielle.
Hi, everyone. I'm Danielle Wombolt, and I'm on the Red Hat team. As we mentioned earlier, our target audience for this is really the high-level decision makers that are a part of the enterprise. And the reason for that is we already have such a vibrant community, and we need to understand the business side of it. What are the business initiatives that Ceph is solving, and how can we message to that to really get a broader audience? Our second audience would be the end users, the influencers on the buying teams, the people that are really working with the engineers, the developers to make sure that Ceph is solving their problems. Like I said before, we're not targeting the developers or engineers since we already have such a vibrant community, and we're really looking to just understand the business initiatives that Ceph is solving. Next slide. And we have a lot of key initiatives here, and we're not limited to this, and this is why we need your help. We are looking for new ideas. We just launched the Ceph.io website, and Mike will talk about it next. But we also want to make sure that we are leveraging a lot of stuff that we're already doing, such as the user surveys. There's a lot of valuable information in there, and how can we leverage it from a business side? There's tons of events, and putting together a speaking bureau to understand who we can go to for these events easily We can be a part of more events, really making sure that our content is educational and we're highlighting the technology from a vendor neutral perspective. And also we want to make sure that all of this stuff can go into this always on digital marketing program. So Ceph is always going to be top of mind. And next slide. And Mike, I can hand it off to you.
There you go. Sorry. So yeah, we've been working on redoing the Ceph website for some time. I believe this has been something on my list since I joined it in 2018. And so in 2019, we worked with different groups, starting with Sousa and Red Hat on this. And then the Soft Iron has done a huge amount of work in trying to help out with both the design of the website, the sitemap, the different images that you see as well. The website is a lot more organized now, and it's I feel like you can now find content, and there's less of duplicate content around as well. And yeah, overall, we're providing in more content in terms of use cases on here, as well as mentioned before, a list of the press releases that we'll have. And you'll notice as well that the website itself is no longer using any sort of like WordPress sort of content management system. Instead, we are now using a static content generator for the website. So pretty much now it is excuse me, a lot more accessible to the community, where you could go to the Ceph GitHub org, and you could go to the Ceph.io GitHub repository, and then you can actually do pull requests to actually make modifications to the website, as well as adding adding additional blog posts. Some of the processes here still need to be kind of figured out, but overall, I think this is a great movement for the website, making it more accessible to the community.
I think Mike was being quite modest there in terms of the amount of effort that certainly him and his team have contributed to the website. As you mentioned, it's been a couple of years in the making, with lots of different team members, and there was a huge lift over the last few weeks. You guys have managed to get it over the line, which is, it's a huge achievement. And certainly something that will be really important for us as to the marketing development group as we pursue some digital marketing activities. It'll be an essential platform for us to share content, do things like remarketing, driving people from AdWords, and all that good stuff. So I certainly can't claim any credit for it. So thanks, Mike, to you and the team. And I think, Danielle, you've been working across it as well quite closely. So yeah, really good job, guys. So in terms of the next steps, we continue to meet fortnightly. And as Danielle mentioned before, there's loads of ideas on the table. We're working those into a bit of a long-term strategy, where we plot out all the good stuff and some of the activity. We'll actually take that to the Ceph Foundation board in order to apply for a bit of a budget to enable us to actually execute on a bunch of this stuff. And then we'll go to market, and between us, we'll divide and conquer, and we'll start to see a bit more of Ceph in the headlines and your Google searches and across social media. And of course, we look forward to sharing some of those results with you over time. We'll continue to work closely with Mike to make sure that we share the results and include more people from the community. Which leads me on to my last point. We're stronger together. So this is a call to arms, if you will. It's an open invitation for anyone within the community who'd like to get involved. The more the merrier. We're always looking for ideas and skill sets who can help contribute to the success of the program. So if you've got any questions, look any of us up on LinkedIn, reach out to Mike, or reach out to me, and yeah, we can bring you on board. Thanks.
I also want to give a shout out. I also want to give a shout out to Zach Dover, works as a contractor for the Ceph Foundation, who helped write a lot of the content for the website as well.
Yeah, I think over the years there's been many hands have made light work for it towards the end, so that's great. All right.
All right, I have a quick question. First of all, thank you guys for putting this together. It's really exciting to see some more deliberate collaboration at the community level on the marketing piece. I was just wondering if you could give a little bit of clarity about what quote unquote marketing activities means. Are we talking about things like, I mean, I guess as we start having more in-person events, there will be activities there, but are we talking about putting together more use cases that we can showcase on the website, or I don't know, can you give a little bit more color
certainly.
about that?
Yeah, I don't mind talking to that. Obviously, Mike's team has been doing, a fantastic job over the last few years, and we've seen Ceph at things, like CephLaCon and some of the other events. But certainly keeping an eye on the radar in terms of any other relevant events where we can either put forward speakers. One of the initiatives Danielle mentioned was a speakers bureau. So we're actually going out and collecting folks with an expertise and who are prepared and willing to talk to, talk at events. So if there is a particular event, we can actually put forward some names on behalf of the Ceph Foundation to talk and evangelize Ceph. At the same time, through things like PR activity, we can contribute content and articles. All the publications and platforms that we live and breathe through, they're always seeking good content because obviously their audiences, like to read. So if we can contribute content in that respect, so there's definitely that to be had. Then there's some things around just straight up, housekeeping in terms of search engine optimization, improved SEO, search marketing, so things like AdWords. We can do things like remarketing and sharing some of the data that we collect from the website. We can share that with the teams, which will inform, things like, social media marketing. And then, of course, to your point about use cases. So naturally, the vendors here are doing a fantastic job putting forward their own use cases and case studies. But I think collectively what we can do is certainly, and we've made a start on this, we've done a bit of a collateral audit to see where we are already representing certain use cases or verticals, and trying to identify a few gaps where we can say, okay, well, there's obviously a bit of a gap here. There's an opportunity to address a workload in this particular vertical and produce some more vendor-neutral content, which will help individuals actually, really assess and evaluate the technology for their needs. That's just a few of the examples.
There's a question in the chat. Somebody was asking how to join this group. You mentioned there are these bi-weekly meetings. Can anyone join those, and when are they scheduled?
Yeah, absolutely. Mike, can you answer that question in terms of logistics for reaching out?
Yeah, so we got to better establish that right now. There is in the Ceph wiki right now is where we have all the working groups that are collected right now. I could put that into chat. But I think certainly probably surfacing some of the working groups up into maybe the website would probably make more sense so that they're more discoverable. But I'll put a link into chat.
Hi, this is Chris here from Kleiso.
Hello. I've lost audio, I think.
Chris, did you have a question with the marketing development working group?
No, this is the ambassador group, right? Or am I too early?
You're too early, but we could kind of blend them together, I think, is fine, because I think some of the people for the ambassador group are here as well.
I can just log out and log back in 4 minutes. Up to you.
It's too late. You're in the Ceph Marketing Development Group now.
Okay. Bye, guys. I'll listen with one ear then.
Oops, that gives a 404. Sorry about that, Anthony.
Just a quick comment. You mentioned adding some stuff to the website. I'm not sure if this is on there now, but might probably be good to also include the link to the community calendar that has all of the upstream meetings. That'll include the marketing working group and all the developer focus meetings as well. I think it was on the old website. I can't remember if we included it on the new one, but I'll double check that.
Yeah, currently we just have the tech talks, the code walkthroughs, and then the other various meetings. So I think the other thing too is that we haven't exactly recorded the market development working groups meetings so far. So perhaps we need to start doing that as well.
Maybe this is sort of unrelated, but when we launch the new site, is the old site still available at a different URL? In case people are looking for missing links or whatever. Or is that that's a question for David?
That might be a question for David.
I'll follow up with him today.
Okay. Is that it?
Yeah, so I put the wiki link into chat. If you want to add your name and email address, and then we could include you in the future threads. Well,
this is Gaurav from Red Hat. So the ambassadors can also be a part of that group, right?
yeah, I don't see why not. Yeah, there's no problem being part of both. Something that I did want to bring up, though, with this being a birds of a feather session, though, is does it make sense for all the working groups, though, to maybe be communicating over one of the Ceph mailing lists, and just so that communication is more out there, people? And I would actually suggest like the Ceph users list as opposed to a separate mailing list, just because I normally don't really see people subscribing to multiple lists. I think it probably makes sense. Then you got a bunch of eyes on one list. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's fine by me, certainly. I think whatever's most useful for the community and those who are interested to stay up to date with what we're doing. So if that's the best way to do that, I think it's a good idea.
We did it for the user survey working group, and we didn't get a ton of communication, but there were at least some people that were working with us on different suggestions with the user survey as we were developing it. Just an idea. I know that Ceph user is already a high traffic mailing list, but I would probably suggest just like adding a tag into the subject line of like, this is the market dev. It could be like market-dev-WG, like as a tag in the subject line so people can find it. Okay, do we got any other questions with the market development working group?
Right.
All right.
Thanks for having us, and thanks for giving us the opportunity, to introduce ourselves. Look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Cameron,
Thanks.
everybody in team.